الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بالإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So we continue discussing the book Al-Mulakis Al-Fiqhi by Sheikh Salih Fawzan Hafidullah, and in the last lesson we start discussing matters regarding Ahkam al-Nikah. So of those things that we had covered regarding the general Ahkam relating to al-Nikah, and also those characteristics or qualities that one should look for regarding a spouse, male or female. Then he went on to discuss matters concerning the Ahkam of al-Khitbah. So we discussed concerning the one who wished to make a proposal, what are the ahkam and the adab relating to those matters. So before we go to the next chapter, we just want to somewhat just for clarity regarding ahkam al-khitbah, that the khitbah is where one side will put a proposal to the other. If it is accepted, then it does not mean by acceptance of the khitbah, the proposal, it means that they are married. And the ahkam of nikah applies to both. So they are still foreigners to each other, they are still not married. And all the ahkam that applies as normal regarding two strangers, but they are intending to be wed, but by acceptance of the khitbah, but they are not considered to be husband and wife, where they would not per se allowed to be to travel on their own, also for them to like go to the movies, for them to do this and that together. All those things are still not allowed until after they have gotten married. So inshallah ta'ala, tonight we'll start discussing, as the Shaykh mentioned, Bab fi Aqd al-Nikah wa Arkani wa Shuruti, discussing matters, other matters relating to al-Nikah. Aywa.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillahi qala ma'alif hafidhullah. Chapter 3, page 361, titled Marriage Contracts, Integrals and Conditions. It is desirable to deliver a sermon before concluding the marriage contract. This sermon is called the Sermon of Ibn Masud. It may be delivered by the one who concludes the contract or by anyone else of the attendants. Its wording is as follows. Verily, all praises to Allah, we praise Him, ask His help and forgiveness, and turn to Him in repentance. We seek refuge with Him from the evils of ourselves and from the evils of our deeds. Whomever Allah guides, for him there is no misleader. And whoever he leads astray, for him there is no guide. I testify that there is no deity but Allah, and I testify that Muhammad is the servant and messenger. Related by the 5 compilers of hadith and deemed a Hassan good hadith by Tirmidhi. After delivering the sermon, the following 3 verses of Allah's book, the Quran, are to be recited. The first verse is, O you who have believed, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except as Muslims in submission to Him. Al-Quran, Surah Al-Imran, Ayah 102. The second one is, O mankind, fear your Lord who created you from one soul and created from it its mate, and dispersed from both of them many men and women. And fear Allah through whom you ask one another and the wombs. Indeed, Allah is ever over you an observer. Surah An-Nisa, Ayah 1. The third is, O you who have believed, fear Allah and speak words of appropriate justice. He will then amend you your deeds and forgive you your sins. And whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger has certainly attained a great attainment. Surah Al-Adhab, Surah Ayah 70-71.
Hey, so the author, Ahfidullah, he started regarding concerning this chapter, which he titled Aqd al-Nikah or Fi Aqd al-Nikah. So those matters that relates to the actual marriage between both. What are those things that should be in place to make it something which is valid, to make it so to make the Aqd al-Nikah valid? What are those things that should be in place? So he discussed concerning it has arkan to it, and also those matters that relates to al-Nikah, that relates to the shurut al-Nikah. Then he started out regarding the Aqd al-Nikah. Of those first things that he mentioned, yustahab عند الإرادة على أكثر النكاح تقديم خطبة. So this khutbah is referred to as khutbah al-haja. So this khutbah al-haja that the Prophet ﷺ, that he would normally says whenever he conducts a nikah. And also this khutbah he said also on Yawm al-Jum'ah and Salatul Eid. So so the general same khutbah is mentioned on those situations. So of those places that becomes mustahab, preferred for this khutbah to be said, is when a nikah, a marriage is taking place, when the act of nikah, a marriage ceremony is taking place. So he mentioned regarding concern that it consists of the open address, where the Prophet ﷺ would say things regarding the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then also he would cite some verse from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as he mentioned, that this is something which is mustahab. So of those things that is said to be mustahab for the person to open with this particular khutbah. So it's not wajib to be done, but it is something which is mustahab to be done as a part of the marriage ceremony. This part can be said by either the wali, or it can be said by someone who's the one who's officiating the nikah. So the one who's officiating nikah, they can say it, or the person who's the wali himself, he can also say this khutbah. Aywa. If it is not said, and something is said in replacement, then it is still a valid nikah with the other shurut in place, with the other conditions, if they are in place. Aywa.
The three integral parts of marriage.
So I mentioned integral, which is concerned the arkan. So it is concerned the arkan of the marriage, so the actual marriage, for it marriage contract to be valid, that there are certain things that must be in place. So I mentioned concerning that arkan, that if these things are not in place, then the marriage is not said to be valid. If these things are not fulfilled, then the marriage is not said to be valid. With the Hanabila, of some of the books of the Hanabila, here the Shaykh mentioned that arkan act al-nikah fahiya thalatha, that the pillars, those pillars of the act al-nikah, that they're three. Then you will list all three. Other books of the Hanabila that they mention arba. So some books of the Hanabila that will mention as in relation to the act al-nikah, then there's 4 pillars that must be in place. And other books mention ruknan. And this amongst the Hanabila. So amongst the Hanabila, those who mention is ruknan, al-ijab wal-qabul. Those who mention it is thalatha. And those that mention it is arba. As the author, so those who mention it is arba, they will mention ijab, qabul, wa zawj, wa zawja. So as for those who say it is arba, so those who say it is 2 condition, you have ijab al-qabul, she being given away, and the qabul, the acceptance by way of the groom. Those who say it is thalatha, the Shaykh will clarify that position. As for those who say it is arba, they will have ijab, she being given away. Second, qabul, the acceptance of her in marriage. The third would be the husband is known, and the fourth, the bride is known, or the bride and groom, that they are known. So those would be the 4 conditions that must be in place for it to be deemed to be a valid nikah. Aywa.
Spouses must be free from any barriers that may deter the validity of their marriage. For example, the woman must not be one of those whom the prospective groom is prohibited to marry, such as being a close blood relative, marrying whom is incest, being a sister through having been breastfed by the same woman, or being a widow or a divorced woman in her waiting period, and the like. Another example is that the man must not be a disbeliever while the woman is a believer. There are some other legal barriers that will shed light on if Allah wills.
So those are of the first arkan you mentioned, wujud zawjain khaliyaini min al-mawana. So the first that he mentioned is wujud, they should be present, or those that are involved, a bride and a groom. So bride and groom, where they are known. So the bride and groom, that being involved and present, this is of the condition of the nikah. Then he mentioned khaliyaini min al-mawana. So also regarding a marriage, that a discussion between the ulama, what he mentioned as being that also that he mentioned khaliyaini min al-mawana, that they should be free from any impediments, meaning anything that stops them or bar them from getting married. Of the ulama mentioned, that's not per se of the arkan, but that fall into the shurut. So they make a distinction regarding the arkan, wujud zawjain, that's from the arkan. As for them being free from that they are free from anything that bars them from getting married, that's put in the next category of thing, which is of the shurut of nikah, not the arkan of the act al nikah. Clear? But that discussion is so that's concerning that matter they mentioned. So of those things, as they give an example, there may be cases, or in Islam, a a bride and groom of those things that could be an impediment for them to get married if they're, for example, brothers and sisters, or that bars them from getting married would be that both are strangers, but they were breastfed by the same lady. So they were, so that also they become like brothers and sisters. So they are not allowed to marry each other in the future. So those are the impediments or mawana that may arise. Or a female, she's still in her iddah, as we had discussed before. So she's still in her iddah, and then she wants to get married. No, she cannot get married until she completes her iddah, as we had discussed in last week's lesson. Aywa.
Second, the bride's consent must be verified. It is expressed through the spoken form uttered by the legal guardian of the bride or anyone in his place. He says to the groom, I marry you so and so. Third,
they mention Rukn Thani, the second, what they mention is the second. Repeat.
The bride's consent must
they mention Husul al-Ijab. We're concerned we're meaning concerned Husul al-Ijab, she being given away. So of the shurut, it's not per se that her consent at that point, yes, her consent will be considered to be of those matters that are related to the shurut al-nikah, but at that, when a marriage is being conducted, then it will be understood that she already gave her consent. So the husul al-ijab is whereas she being given away by her wali. She being given away by her wali, then that's concerning what is ijab. So that part in the marriage, you might find the bride does not need to give herself away or to repeat anything, because her wali will be the one responsible to give her away. So in cases that if she's present, then that's not a problem. If she's absent also, the marriage can still place in her absence. Because the one to give her away would be the wali, the guardian of the female. Because the wali, it's expected that the wali would already had consent from her. Clear? So how they translate regarding husul al-ijab, in the sense of, it's not per se her consent there, but she being given away by her wali. That is al-ijab, where he would kind of somewhat say, no, I give you away in marriage, and the groom would say, I accept her in marriage. Aywa.
Third, the groom's acceptance must be verified. It is expressed through the spoken form uttered by the groom in reply to the guardian, namely, I marry her or I accept her marriage. Shaykh al-Islam.
Yes, that's the second condition. So that's the third, which is the qabul by way of the groom. So it could be that him, or he could appoint someone to act on his behalf. He can have someone, if he's not able to be present due to circumstance and situation, he can appoint someone to act on his behalf to be the one to accept on his behalf the marriage to this person, as they call a wakil. Could act as a person acting as his wakil. A discussion before to the next point that the ulama discussed concerned that we have ijab wal qabul. So in normal cases, the ijab, which is she being given away in marriage, that usually comes first, as in the sequence. So the sequence would be khutbatul haja, then the wali of the girl, who's the wali, the guardian, he would give her away by saying certain things, by using the word nakahtu or zawajtuk, of those type of wordings. Then so he would utter those words. Then the response to this would be by way of the groom, that he would say qabiltu. So that's concerning the sequence of what will take place. So in normal cases, said you have ijab, then we have qabul. If it was to vice versa, the man accepting her before she's given away. Then said that Jumhur of the ulama take the position that marriage is still valid. So even though he says, no, yes, I take this girl in marriage, and he made it, and the husband said, I give her away. So the sequence was somewhat said vice versa, but it still counts with the Jumhur, majority of the ulama, except for the Hanabila. They all that you have to stick to the sequence. She been given away first, then him accepting her come after, not vice versa. But they said that the thing that's with the ulama, it is something which is majority, or that is something which is allowed. The Hanabila, or that it is not allowed if things was, the order was to be out of order, if it was to be out of sequence, the order is not to be correct. But Salat Jumhur, as it is, still valid. Aywa. So Jumhur also said correct, they have the Hanafi, Maliki, and the Shafi'i. So there will be Jumhur that says, and also of contemporary time, Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. Aywa.
Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and his disciple Ibn al-Qayyim maintained that marriage can be concluded by any word that indicates the same meaning of the aforementioned spoken forms, and that it is not restricted to them.
So this discussion regarding that, our next discussion I discussed regarding the act of nikah, does it has to be the wording as that is used is zawajtukaha or nakahtuha. The person thinks the word nikah and the person uses the word zawaj. Is it restricted only to those two words? So of the ulama who says yes, it's only restricted to those two words. But Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah discussed that it's not per se restricted to those two words. Any words that take that meaning, that can be used. And aywa. So and any language that is used in, then also that is accepted. Any other language, it is all that is used, then also it is accepted. Aywa.
However, those scholars who made the spoken forms of marriage restricted to the aforementioned ones argue that marriage is explicitly referred to in the Quran without implication. Allah exalted, He says, so when Zayd had no longer any need for her, we married her to you. Surah Al-Adhab, ayat 37. Allah also says, and do not marry those women whom your fathers married. Surah An-Nisa, ayat 22. In fact, this does not mean that marriage is not to be consummated except through these spoken forms, and Allah knows best. A marriage contract is deemed valid for a mute when the legal form of consent or acceptance is expressed through writing or understood gesture. When mutual consent and acceptance are reached, marriage is to be deemed valid even if the one uttering the legal spoken form of marriage is jesting and does not mean the actual marriage. This is due to the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, there are three things which, whether undertaken seriously or in jest, are treated as serious: divorce, marriage, and taking back a wife after revocable divorce. Related by Timothy.
So he discussed concerning of those points that I discussed, he mentioned yanaqid and nikah min akras, that if a person so in a nikah to be deemed valid, that spoke that words has to be spoken by way of ijab al-qabul. So ijab al-qabul must be spoken verbally, must be uttered. In the case of a person unable to speak, then it becomes acceptable. So the person legitimately cannot speak, that in that case, then it's be written or by way of ishara, then that is accepted. But the normal procedures is that it should be spoken. If the person is silent throughout everything and didn't say anything, then it is not valid. And if the person is able to speak, so they must utter certain words of ijab al-qabul must be uttered, except in the case where the person has a valid reason for not being able to speak, then they'll communicate in a way which they are able by way of writing or by way of ishara, signs, and aywa. Then he discussed concerning that of those matters regarding an-nikah, act al-nikah, that there's thing that a person that there's three things, that there's no jest in these things, there's no playing around these things. So if they are uttered or said, then the ruling applies. Then he mentioned this hadith that is mentioned here regarding thalathun hazluhunna jid wa jidduhunna jid, at-talaq wal-nikah wal-rij'a or raj'a, whichever both ways are correct. Rawahu at-Tirmidhi. That particular hadith, you have some discussion regarding the hadith, but of the ulama, all the hadith to be hasan of those, but there's some discussion regarding this particular hadith that at-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, all the hadith to be hasan al-gharib, and Al-Arnaut wa Shaykh Albani ibn Hajar, who all the hadith to be hasan or sahih of the ulama, who all the hadith to be sahih or hasan, but of the ulama there's some kalam regarding this particular hadith. Aywa. So showing that a person regarding these matters, there's no joking regarding these matters. If the person is there in the majlis of the act al-nikah and he says, I accept, he cannot be saying, I was joking later. I was just and we're playing around. Then, as I said, things don't run like that. Aywa.
4 conditions for the validity of marriage. Number 1, accurate specification of the 2 spouses. Each of the 2 spouses must...
So you had mentioned, so what had been mentioned before previously are the arkan of nikah, which he mentioned to be 3. So arkan and nikah, that the author here that he mentioned, you have mentioned those arkan. We mentioned that wujud, zawjain, ijab, wal qabul. Those are the arkan of nikah. So from this, even for example, the mahar is not yet mentioned. So the mahar is not of the arkan of the nikah. That has to do with the shurut, other things, which will be discussed separately. So, and as we'll discuss those matters. So of the arkan of nikah are those 3 things. Identify the bride and groom, where they're somewhat known. Or also that the ijab is uttered or said by way of the wali or a person acting on his behalf. And also the qabul, which is the response by way of the groom. Those are the main components for everything to be deemed valid. And everything is held in one majlis. So the mention has to be majlis and wahid. So in the case of everything is done in one sitting. Now, not they started, then they break and they come back 2 hours later. Then no, everything has to be done together. Now, so that's concerning of those things that are referred to as the arkan of nikah. Those are the arkan of the nikah. Then he mentioned amma shurut sihhat al-nikah. As for the validity of the nikah, he mentioned that there are arba components. Aywa.
Each of the 2 spouses must be accurately specified while referring to them. For example, it is insufficient for a bride's father to say to the groom as a legal spoken form, I marry you, my daughter. He has many daughters. Similarly, he cannot say to the groom's father, I marry my daughter to your son, while the latter has many sons. Accordingly, the spouse referred to must be accurately specified either by pointing at him, her, referring to him, her, by mentioning him, his, her name, or mentioning a certain quality that distinguishes him or her.
So the first of those conditions, which is ta'yin kull min az-zawjayn. So it is both are identify and specify as to who's the exact groom and the bride. So they mentioned that so you have a case where if a father, the wali, he has 3 daughters. Now all are not married. Then he mentions, I married you to one of my daughters. Then that's not valid because he has 3 daughters that are there. So he has to specify which of the 3. So that's being open and general, then that becomes is not valid. So our next case that if he has 1 daughter, I marry you to my daughter. He has only 1 daughter. Then it becomes clear who he's speaking of. If a case he has 3 daughters, 2 is married, and the 3rd is not married, but she's divorced. She's a divorcee, but she's not married. And he said, I marry you to my daughter. Then that one becomes specific as she's the one who's divorcee and not married. Then she's the one that is left to be married. So it becomes that he's speaking about her. So she becomes the one that is being spoken of. So identifying both male, the male and the female, male and female as to be identified. Aywa. And it does not mean as mentioned by name. It doesn't mean you have to specify the name depending on the circumstance situation. Nam. Aywa.
Number 2, mutual consent. There must be a mutual consent between the 2 spouses. Marriage is not deemed valid if any of the 2 is forced to accept it. To illustrate, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a previously married woman should not be given in marriage except after consulting her, and a virgin should not be given in marriage except after her permission. Related by Bukhari and Muslim. This is applied except for the minor who has not reached maturity or the ill, the insane, as the legal guardian can marry any of them without their permission.
So the next condition regarding رضا من كل زوجين بالآخر. So of those conditions is that both parties involved have to give consent. So as we said, so both parties have to somewhat, the bride and groom, give consent to marry each other, where both were not forced into the situation. Both were not forced, whether by him or by way of her, that they were forced into the situation. So both given their willing consent. They mentioned in one exception. So if the woman is, they mention that a marriage can take place by way of a father, and they said this is only for the father, that he can marry his daughter, give her away in marriage, if she's, they mentioned, below the age of 9, below puberty, age of 9, he can marry her without per se her full consent because she's a young girl. But when she even though it is done by the father, she also, before she can move with the guy, live with the person, when she becomes young, then she has to give consent. So she can say, yes, I accept this case, or she can not go through with that marriage. So she still have a choice at the time before she live with that husband. So the father can do it as something to be done, but at some point she still have to give her consent. Nam. So they mentioned that لا تنكي أيمنة حتى تستعمر, regarding concern the woman who been married before, she must give her verbal or some verbal must give a clear answer. So the woman who has been married must give a clear answer regarding that. If her father asks her that you want to marry this person, she must clearly give a clear answer. As for the one who's ولا البكر, as for the أتى تستأذن, as for the bikr, which means concern the young girl or the girl that has never been married before, then as for that one, then her silence is her consent. So if either she can still speaks and give her a response, but if she remains silent with the qara'in, then that is taken as her consent, because she didn't per se refused or show sign of refusal. So for silence indicating that she's somewhat in approval, then it is taken as her approval. And so that's only if it's a bikr, meaning bikr in a sense, she had never been married before. So bikr could mean that she's maybe a teenage, that she's still a grown woman, but she hasn't been married before. But as for the one who has been married before and divorcee, then they're more open and have experienced marital life. So usually they consider this, they have to speak up, as they say. She has to speak up. As for the bikr, she's usually more shyer. So she might kind of somewhat not want to say anything that will be taken with other qara'in as her consent regarding her approval of the marriage. Aywa. Also they mentioned here concerning a person who's majnoon can also get married. Can get married. By way of, if a person in your family, they might see that the person said not well mentally, but they're physically able, and they are showing indication that they want to get married. So the wali in that case can marry them off. So within those cases it can occur. So we say that they're a general thing, it can occur and still deemed to be valid. But for the person that's going to say that is but with the wali kind of somewhat to oversee everything, but it's something that can occur. It can occur. And you see today that you have cases where someone may be mentally not per se fully fit at times, that they're married, where sometimes they're not fully there, but at times they're there. And if they want to get married, then their wali, whoever is in charge, can either get them married due to situation or circumstance. Aywa.
The bride's guardian's permission. A woman is to be given in marriage by the permission of her legal guardian.
Pause. So I mentioned that of those conditions, شرط الثالث أن يعقد على مرة وليها. That the third condition, that the wali must be in place. So the woman has to have someone to act as her wali, appointed or there as her wali. And they'll discuss the details of this. In that case, regarding concerning whether she'd been married before, previously been married, or getting married for the first time, she's still required to have a wali. So she may be 50, never been married before. She said, I'm a grown woman, I'm a responsible woman, I have everything, everything is organized. I have my own car, my house, and my money and everything. You still need a wali. I have 10 kids, you still need a wali. So any woman getting married, regardless of her previous situation or her circumstance, she's still required to have a wali. Aywa.
The bride's guardian's permission. A woman is to be given in marriage by the permission of her legal guardian. This is due to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he says, no marriage is valid without the permission of a guardian, related by the 5 compilers of hadith except An-Nisa'i. Consequently, if a woman gives herself in marriage without a legal guardian, her marriage is regarded as invalid, as such an act is a means leading to unlawful sexual intercourse.
Pause. On that matter regarding concerning having a wali in place, that there's a discussion between the ulama. So there's a discussion between the ulama. So majority of the ulama mention that the woman is required to have a wali. Majority is of the view that the woman is required to have a wali, and that's the view of the Malikiyya, the Shafi'iyya, and the Hanabila, that a woman is required to have a wali in getting married. Then, and also you find that of the Sahaba they mention Omar, Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abbas, Abu Hurairah, Aisha, among the Tabi'een, Hassan al-Basri, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, Jabir ibn Zayd, Awzahi, Al-Thawri, Al-Shafi, and the likes, and others. So the majority of the ulama from the Sahaba and also from the Tabi'een, that they take the position that a woman must have, is conditional for the marriage to be valid, that she has a wali in place. Then you have a view concerning that Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, that does not mention that the wali is a requirement, and they have their own guidelines to certain things. But the overwhelming view of the ulama is that the wali is needed for the marriage. The wali is needed for the marriage. As for the hadith that is mentioned here, where they mention la nikah illa bi wali, so they mention as the proof of the jumhur of the ulama, that the evidence regarding that mention that the hadith in the Al-Khamsa in the Nasa'i, that the problem when they mention la nikah, that there is no valid nikah illa, or there is no valid nikah illa bi idni wali, with the permission of the wali. So that's what is meant, that a marriage is not deemed valid unless with the permission of the wali. That this particular hadith that is mentioned here, there's some discussion regarding the hadith. So you have some discussion regarding this particular hadith, that the hadith, khilaf between the ulama of hadith, where some narration of the hadith mention the hadith mursala, and some with meaning that is not a full connected chain, and other narration it come mawsula with a full connected chain. So yeah, because of that you have some discussion between the ulama on this matter. So they mentioned that of those who authenticate the hadith, you have the likes of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who authenticate this hadith as being mawsula. Also Ali ibn Madini, Imam al-Bukhari, al-Dhuhli, Ibn Hibban wal Hakim, of those who hold this hadith, la nikah illa bi wali, as authentic of contemporary Sheikh Arnahoud and also Sheikh Albani, of those of contemporary who hold the hadith to be authentic with this as mentioned. So with this, that's the view that is of evidence like this and others that they use to show that the wali is wajib, or the wali is of those things that must be in place, or the things of the shurut of the nikah. So of the things, so additional information regarding concern the wali, that also with the wali there's condition that are in place regarding the wali. So of the wali, for the wali, of the condition for the person stand as a wali, one, he has to be male, dhukura or dhukur, aqil, of sound mind, baligh, so he has to be above the age of puberty. So for a wali, he has to be above the age of puberty. That once we have, they'll have hurriya would be the fourth, meaning a person like a free person. Then they have the fifth, ittifaq ad-din. ittifaq ad-din, meaning that the wali and the person that is marrying off the woman, they have to have they must be upon the same religion. So if she's a Muslim, so the Muslim lady can only have as her wali a Muslim male. Must be a Muslim, because she's Muslim, so her wali must be a Muslim. A Muslim, so said that we will discuss again, but we said in this matter, also this applies, we said we're not going to, this also apply that if a Muslim man marrying a non-Muslim lady, example, she's Christian, a Muslim man, she's still required to have a wali. So any marriage Islamically, these components must be in part, must be there. The wali must be there even for a Christian woman. But he has to be from what? Her religion. So she says she's Christian, then she has to bring someone who's her wali and who is Christian, representing her. If she's Yahudi, if she's a Jew, she has to have a wali from her faith of Judaism. So of those things, and something I find that this is neglected, are not where marrying a, we call it, Ahl Kitab, a Muslim man cannot be her wali. A Muslim man cannot be her wali. So of those things of the wilaya, in nikah, the wali, and the lady, the guardian and the lady must be from the same religion. So I said same reason. So I said Muslim with Muslim. Nam, I said Muslim. So along the person a Muslim, then the person acting as there, being a Muslimah, the person being her wali must be Muslim. If she's a Christian, so look to her. If she's a Christian, then her wali must be from her faith. Nam, and if she's Yahudi, also from her faith. And the difference between their faith, that's between them. She's penna, and just if the person from maybe so those things. But the main thing that wilaya must also regard that he must be of the same faith of the girl, the person he's marrying off. Aywa. So that's another one of the condition. We have 5. Another condition we said rushd. He must be of sound mind regarding able to know about matters regarding marriage and what is involved. A rushd. So it must be of a person who's somewhat clued up or somewhat have some understanding about marriage. And also they discuss as another condition adala, al-zahir. So also the wali, they mention that concerning adala, should the wali also be a person said to be adala, meaning that he's upright on his deen and not a fasik. So this matter regarding adala is the condition, one of the criteria for the wali, that he must be an upright Muslim, meaning not a fasik. A khilaf between ulama ala qawlayn on that matter. So of the ulama who requires that the wali must be an upright Muslim, he can't be a fasik. And those who mention that's not a condition, as the hadith mentioned, the hadith can somewhat mention la nikah illa bi wali, without putting criteria to the wali of being a fasik or not being a fasik. It mentioned it in general. So those are those things that relates to this, and the more correct view that it's not necessary that he has to be I say the Jumhur of the ulama mentioned that the wali, if it's not per se the most upright Muslim, but he's Muslim, then he serves as the wali. He can serve as the wali. So those are those conditions relating to the wali. Relating to the wali. So they mention male, bulugh, aql, hurriya, rushd, ittifaq ad-din, and also adala. Aywa.
This is because a woman is considered partially unable to choose her best suited husband. In this respect, Allah exalted He addresses legal guardians of women, saying, "And married and unmarried among you." Surah An-Nur, Ayat 32. Allah also says, "Do not prevent them from remarrying." Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayat 232.
Next discussion between the ulama regarding that relating to the waliship, that as I mentioned, al-adl, where a wali can be removed. So under what circumstance a wali can be removed. That also is discussed between the ulama, that there's cases where the waliship may be removed because of the wali that is not suitable to take that position, or making things extremely difficult for a girl to get married. She has found someone who's suitable, and she agrees with the person marrying a person also is the person that is suitable, and is still blocking. So those factors, so you have factors that can cause the waliship to be removed, as is blocking, stopping the girl from getting married or to get married without, and the reasons are not credible. The reason that he's blocking her are not credible. Aywa.
There are some other verses in the same regard. The legal guardian of a woman is assigned according to this order. Her father, the one who...
It is according to the Hanabila. So this order is according to the Hanabila. Aywa.
Her father, the one authorized by the father to be her guardian. Her paternal grandfather or one of his paternal male descendants. Her son or one of his paternal male descendants, her full brother, her paternal brother, a son of her full paternal brothers, her father's full brother, her father's paternal brother, a son of her father's full or paternal brother, the closest agent relative, her emancipator, the ruler.
Those who regard concerned that the order regarding those who can stand as a wali, those who can stand as a wali for the woman based upon that order. So the normal rule is that the one who comes first is given precedent. So the one first in line is given precedent. The one behind him cannot take that role except with his permission. And also concerned that the wali also can give his, they call it, of a next matter regarding that, they discuss regarding the wali, that as I mentioned, that in cases that also the sultan can be the wali. The sultan can be the wali. So the sultan, as in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that mentioned, as the Prophet mentioned, that in the hadith of Aisha, as-sultan wali man la walila. The Prophet mentioned as-sultan wali, the sultan meaning the one in authority, he takes the waliship if the woman has no wali. The ulama discussed concerning the sultan, the head of state, but in most cases they don't take this role. It normally goes back, they said that the person is the qadi. So the person will be the judge, that there will be, or one of the judges, that they will be assigned for the woman who has no wali to become her wali. And this hadith is in the Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, Sahih hadith Ibn Madini and others. So they mentioned that in certain cases, so the woman who she required to have a person serve as a wali, then ought to be given that responsibility. So you have cases where they outline, if the woman is from a Muslim family, then they will take that responsibility. Now, in the order that had been mentioned. Then a next case, that if the woman, you kept cases, even Sheikh Khatlani mentioned of cases that a woman accepts Islam, and especially that she's in a non-Muslim country. So for example, if she accepts Islam and she's a Muslim country and she wants to get married, then she'll go to either the court or the Islamic department. They'll go to the court and they will assign for her a wali because she's in a Muslim country. So if a woman was to accept Islam, she's in a Muslim country, she has no wali, all her family members are Christian or whatever faith, then she'd go to the court and they would help her in providing for her assign for her a wali. Then if she's, that's enough. If the woman now is in a non-Muslim country and accepted Islam and there's no one from her family that is a Muslim, then someone from the community would be assigned as her wali. So they mentioned that the first of those regarding concern and of those people, to go back to the first reference, would be either Islamic marakis, so the Islamic like centers, by masjid or Islamic centers. Then she will go to those places to find someone from those who in authority amongst the Muslim to act as her wali. So those are the cases. So that's concerning those cases. أيوة.
Number 4, the presence of 2 witnesses. The marriage contract must be witnessed due to the hadith narrated by Jabir, which states that the Prophet ﷺ said, "No marriage is valid without the permission of a guardian and in presence of 2 witnesses, 2 just witnesses. Hence, marriage is not deemed valid except with the presence of 2 just witnesses." At-Tirmidhi said, "This condition has been followed by the men of religious knowledge among the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, their followers who came after them and others. They maintain thus no marriage is valid without the presence of witnesses. No one among them disagreed in this regard except some of the late men of knowledge."
Hey, so our next part before the Adhan is called, what time is Adhan now?
No. Right on.
Hey, okay, after Adhan.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Alhamdulillah. So as for what is being discussed, or what we were, our next point regarding al-wali, the waliship, that with the waliship, that especially when you find that, just for clarity, that 2 matters regarding that if the wali the wali is able to pass on his responsibility to someone else as his wakil. But also that wakil also have to fulfill the same condition of the wali. Muslim, male, adult, hurriya, of sound mind, also of the same deen of the woman. So I might say a person, okay, that I'm passing on the waliship to my brother, but he's a non-Muslim. Because I'm a Muslim and my daughter is a Muslimah, but I'm going to give the waliship to my brother, because I can't be there, but my brother is a non-Muslim, then no, then that's not, then that's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. So the person will pass on the waliship, then also that the waliship, as a person acting as the wakil, then the wakil also have to fulfill the same criteria of that being of the same religion and the other things mentioned. The next matter regarding concerning waliship, that we might find that like in the West, where especially because a sister who have accepted Islam and she wants someone to be appointed as her wali. So she said, "No, you are my wakil." She called the person my wakil, but he's still your wali. He's your wali, not your wakil. So the wakil is when the wali pass on responsibility to someone else. So the person, even though he's still the one, is referred to as your wali. So the wali is not conditional, he has to be a family member. The word wali, for it to be used, has to be a family member. So it may be a non-family member, but he takes the role as being your wali, not your wakil. He's not referred to as your wakil, he's your wali. Clear? So that's concerning regarding the wali. Then the next matter that he discussed the 4th condition regarding the act al-nikah, the 4th of the shurut al-act al-nikah, al-shahidain adl, or shahida adl. That having at the time of the act, when the marriage taking place, that you need at least 2 witnesses. So you need witnesses, 2 witnesses. So they mentioned that, regarding concerning the hadith of Jabir and the hadith also of Aisha regarding la nikah illa bi wali wa shahidi adl. That hadith regarding la nikah illa bi wali, that part, as we discussed before, where some of the ulama hold it to be authentic. The other section of the hadith, wa shahidai adl, there's a khilaf between the ulama that is not authentic. That the second, which the part that says of the two credible witnesses, that part of the hadith, it is not of the ulama. They criticize that additional wording, that it is not actually authentic, and that but they mentioned that of this, a discussion between the ulama is having witnesses a criteria or of the shurut of the nikah. If the witnesses must be present to observe what is taking place. We said the least amount of people required, 2 persons. So on that matter, you find a khilaf between the ulama. So regarding concern this matter, that regarding having witnesses present, the ulama or shuhud or shahada of the nikah, that they fall into three opinions. The ulama, they fall into having witnesses, 3 opinions. The first opinion, as the Shaykh mentioned, that is of the condition of the nikah. That's the first opinion, as stated by the Shaykh, that is of the condition of the nikah, witnesses must be present. And they mentioned the dalil that have been mentioned. And that's the view that taken by Jumhur of the ulama, that Jumhur of the ulama, they order to be of the condition for the validity of the nikah, witnesses must be present. That's the view taken by the Ahnaf, the Shafi'iyya, and the Hanabila. So the Hanafiya, the Shafi'iyya, and the Hanabila, that's of their criteria. The second opinion, laysat shart, lisahd al-nikah, that they all that is not a criteria of the condition for the marriage to be deemed valid. It is not, but it is mustahab. That's the view of the Malikiyya. So the Malikiyya all that know that if the witnesses are not there, the marriage take place is still valid, but it's preferred to have them. Now, but I mentioned that they put a criteria regarding that before, if there's no witness present, before you can consummate, it must be known to 2 people. Clear? So you cannot, either witnesses, if there was no witnesses present at the time that you marry her, before you can consummate, witnesses or people must be informed, because they're going to be witness. So others have said they have to be informed of your marriage to her before you can consummate. Clear? That's the Malikiyya. The third view that they are all concerned is that they mentioned that for the act of nikah to be deemed valid or the marriage to be valid, that is one of 2 things must be done. Either shuhud, present at the time of the nikah, the 2 witnesses are present, or if they are not present, then i'lan, it must be announced. So it's not per se done without no one aware of what have happened. So if you got married and there was no witness there, but then you, for example, announce it to others, I got married. So either i'lan, announcing publicly, or the witnesses are present. One of those 2 things must be in place. And that's the view they're taking. They said al-riwayat Imam Ahmad, and also is the view that is taken by Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah on that matter. So you have that discussion. So they mentioned that those are that discussion regarding having the witnesses. As for the next matter regarding the witnesses, so is it required, not required? What is mentioned by At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, when he mentioned that concern, he mentioned la nikah illa bishuhud, he mentioned that al-amal ala hadha inda ahli al-ilm min ashab Nabi sallam wa man ba'dahum, that this act of having witnesses is a practice of the Sahaba and those who came after them. And those who came later, they had that discussion. So the view that was held by the Sahaba and the Tabi'een was that witnesses are a part of the nikah. So kind of somewhat indicating between the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, a kind of, as they say, ijma, a kind of ijma. The next matter regarding the witnesses, what's the criteria for the witnesses at the nikah? What is required from them to be a witness? So they mentioned that of the case before that, the witnesses, where did I put my notes for the witnesses? That the witnesses, they are the following condition for the witnesses. 1, both must be male. 2, must be, that's a mukallifan, meaning they must be of sound mind and above the age of puberty. So if a person that is 10 then he cannot serve as a witness if he's not yet reached puberty. Or he is 13 but haven't yet reached puberty. Then he cannot serve as a witness. So both witnesses must be above the age of puberty, and also that they are sound mind. So a boy may be there and he's 12 but he has a reached age of puberty, then he's a witness. He can serve as a valid witness. The third, mutakalliman sami'an, that is mentioned that both should be of people who can see, they can speak and hear and see. Or sami'an, that they can hear and see. They can hear and see. So they mentioned that a person who so must be able to can speak and also be able, a discussion between the ulama on that matter, a discussion on that topic per se. But the next condition I mentioned, Islam. So both witnesses for the nikah must be Musliman. They must be Muslim. And that applies to whether Muslim or non-Muslim being the other side. Where the next side is a Ahli Kitab, then it's required that the witnesses must be two Muslim. She can't bring her team and they act as witness. Nam. The next, they mention Adlan, regarding concerning, they discuss concerning most but should be credible, upright Muslim. A discussion as to what's the level of uprightness regarding those two Muslim. Is Fasik allowed? A khilaf also on that matter regarding this. Then they mention the person generally look as a Muslim seems okay, then he can be taken without going into too much detail. And asking a person unnecessary detailed question. They have a next discussion. Now, as witnesses, can the witnesses be, for example, the brother A getting married and his witnesses is other brothers, or her witnesses is her brothers? Is this valid? So after ulama all that, your father, grandfather, the upper ones, the usul, they cannot act as a witness, nor the furu, which is your brother, your other siblings. So those close family members can they act as witnesses or not? On this matter of the ulama all that, no, they cannot act as witnesses. So your father can't be a witness to your nikah, nor from the girl's side, her brothers cannot act as a witness. But of the ulama, by discussion between that matter, and they mentioned that a khilaf between the ulama on this matter, but sahih from the method of the Shafi'iyya and the Hanafiya, that yes, they can do. So our brother can act as witnesses. So even though the khilaf between ulama, we just discussed it, said Masjid al-Ilmiya, that may occur. So in the view of the ulama, yes, it is still valid. Even some mention her brothers act as witnesses even better because they know her well, than to get two strangers who have no connection with her, or the people who are involved. Now, so having witnesses that are somewhat close and know the individuals involved is better than having people serving as witnesses who are complete strangers. So overall, that yes, the father or the brothers, they could act as witnesses for family members getting married. So those are the things they mention regarding the condition for the shuhud. Last matter of the ulama discussed, the next matter regarding that, as witnesses can find two brothers. Taib, we cannot find two brothers. So we have one brother and we can get and she have two sisters. Is that allowed?
Yes. Two acts is one, right? We didn't ask you. A rhetorical question.
What are they? But you remember the answer, inshallah. So that's now a discussion between the ulama. In cases, if we have one male, two female, is that allowed? Or there's no brothers, so get four females. So they mentioned that's a discussion on that matter. So majority all of the ulama that it must be only males can serve as the witnesses and no female. That's the call of jumhur of the ulama, that only males can serve as the witnesses in marriage, in this matter regarding marriage. As for female, no. So the equation of 1, 2 or 4, then in this case it doesn't apply. So that apply in certain cases, but not in this regard. Even though some hold, it can, but that's the minority, but majority hold, it is not allowed. I mentioned shahidin ad, that regarding that, so I mentioned in this case that female not to act as witnesses. So that inshallah will end this discussion. Wabillahi ta'ala tawfiq. So inshallah, I think most likely next week, today maybe the last lesson, isn't it? Until after Ramadan. Wabillahi ta'ala tawfiq.